Hi and welcome to Adia. നമുക്ക് അടുത്ത വീഡിയോയിലേക്ക് കിടക്കാം. Skills required to be a data scientist in 2021. If you like our videos, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. വീഡിയോയിലേക്ക് കിടക്കാം. Skills required to be a data scientist in 2021. First of all, programming, പിന്നെ data pre-processing, machine learning, deep learning, model deployment, data visualization, and big data. So let's start with this. These are the skills required to be a data scientist in this era. First of all, programming. Choosing the programming of our choice. This is one of the most confusing tasks we have to come across. And choices are important. We have Python, we have R, we have Julia. So Python, a general purpose programming language, having multiple data science libraries along with rapid prototyping. Pinne R nokkuvanengil, it's good for statistical analysis and visualization. And since Python is the most common coding languages, let's go ahead with Python. Python can take various formats of data and you can easily import SQL tables into your code. It allows you to create data sets and you can literally find any type of data set you need on Google. And you can use Python for almost all the steps involved in data science processes. So, adukondu thanne Python is easy to read, learn and write. Python is a high-level programming language which has English-like syntax. This makes it easier to read and understand the code. Python is really easy to pick up and learn. That's why a lot of people recommend Python to beginners. You need less lines of codes to perform a same task as compared to other major programming languages like C, C++ and Java. Due to simplicity, developers can focus on solving the problem. Python, they don't need to spend too much of time understanding the syntax or behavior of the programming language. You write less code and you get lot more things done. Python is an interpreted language, which means that Python directly executes codes line by line. So, in case of an error, it stops further execution and reports that error, which the developer has to eliminate. So, this debugging process ne valare simple akkuvan. You don't have to go in search of where exactly that error has happened. You know exactly this is where the error has occurred and you need to remove that error and then move forward. Another advantage, Python is dynamically typed. Python doesn't know the type of variable until we run the code. It automatically assigns the data type during execution. Programmer doesn't need to worry about declaring the variables and their data types. Another advantage, free and open source libraries. Python comes under OSI approved open source license. This makes it free to use and distribute. You can download the source code, modify it, even distribute your version of Python code. This is useful for organizations that want to modify some specific behavior and use their version for development. Vast library support. Python the standard library of Python is really huge. You can find almost all the functions needed for your task. You don't have to depend on external libraries. And if you do have to depend on external libraries, Python has Python Package Manager pip, which makes things easier to import other great packages from the Python package index. And it consists of over 2 lakh packages. Let's go to the disadvantages of Python. First one is slow speed. As we have discussed above, Python is an interpreted language and dynamically typed language. Line by line execution of code often leads to slow execution. Next one, Python is not that memory efficient. Python programming uses a large amount of memory. This can be a disadvantage where building application where we prefer memory optimization. The next disadvantage would be runtime errors. Python dynamically typed, so data type of variable can change anytime. So, for example, initially a value x is equal to 25. That's an integer. And later part of the program, suddenly you have to declare a variable and without knowing that you have already using x, you accidentally put x as a string, x as data, data1. Now, the second time you use it, Python will consider the second time that you are using it. And this time Python is x is equal to data1. this might lead to a runtime error. So Python programmers need to perform thorough testing. But on the whole, if you look at Python, it's very simple, it's versatile, it's complete programming language, and it's a great choice for beginners and professionals. And although it has some disadvantage, we can observe that advantages exceed the disadvantages. Even Google has made Python one of its primary programming languages. And Python we main libraries. First one would be NumPy library. NumPy will help us to manage multi-dimensional arrays very efficiently. Maybe you won't do it directly, but since the concept is a crucial part of data science and other libraries, almost all the other libraries are built up on NumPy. Without NumPy, you won't be able to use Pandas, Matplotlib, SciPy, Scikit-learn, none of them. So you have to always use NumPy. Aduthathu Pandas library. To analyze data, we may use dimensional tables like in SQL and Excel. Nerathe Python li oru feature illarunnu. So Pandas made it possible. Oru two-dimensional table venengil we have to use Pandas. So we can say that Pandas is the SQL of Python. So without Pandas, we can't do data analysis, data cleaning, data handling, and data discovery. And these are very necessary steps before you run machine learning projects. Aduthathu Matplotlib. This is data visualization help in a library. It helps you to understand data, discovering things that you wouldn't discover in a raw format. And it also helps you to communicate your findings more efficiently. And the next one is Scikit-learn. Without any doubt, the fanciest thing done in Python is machine learning and predictive analysis. And the best library you can use for that is Scikit-learn. Seaborn. This again is a data visualization library, and it's based on Matplotlib. It provides a high-level interface for drawing attractive and informative statistical graphics. Seaborn helps you to explore and understand your data. And we also have some deep learning libraries like TensorFlow and Keras. Let's go to the next skill. And the next skill is data pre-processing. So don't get confused. It is all one and the same. Data wrangling, data analysis, data pre-processing, data manipulation. It's all one and the same. And this is the step where you clean data and transform it into a format that can be analyzed better in the next stages. For example, let's take an example of packing your luggage. What will happen if you throw all your clothes into your bag? You will definitely save few minutes, but it is not an efficient way to do it, and your clothes will also get spoiled. Instead, if you can spend few time ironing and putting them in stacks, this will be much more efficient and your clothes will remain in good condition. Similarly, data manipulation and data wrangling, it may take a lot of time, but it will help you in taking a better data-driven decision. This flow chart. First you discover data, then data acquisition, data preparation, data manipulation, and the whole idea is to convert raw data into structured data. And the next skill that you need to be a data scientist is machine learning. And it's a subset of artificial intelligence. Machine learning ne kurichu nammada previous videos le kore ketittundu. And so if you want to stand out of other data scientists, you need to know machine learning techniques such as supervised machine learning, decision tree, logistic regression, etc. These skills will certainly help you to solve different data science problems that are based on predictions and major organizational outcomes. What are the skills required for machine learning engineers? Must be proficient in probability concepts, conditional probability, Bayesian principles, linear algebra, of course, fundamentals of programming and algorithms. So these are the skills required in machine learning. And the next skill is deep learning. Again, we have come across deep learning in our previous videos, and it's a step where you understand all about the data and take its feel. It's a step where you learn a lot about data. For example, what are the average sales per week? What are the products that are brought the most, and so on. And of course, deep learning is an AI function that imitates the working of human brain, create patterns for use in decision making. And DL makes use of ANN, CNN, and RNN. And the next skill you need is model deployment. And this is the most underrated step in machine learning lifecycle. And I'm going to example. Let's take an insurance company, and they have initiated a data science project which uses vehicle images to access the extent of the damage. Insurance company ki, they need the extent of damage of vehicles from the accident. And being a data scientist, you have developed a model that has near perfect score. And after months of hard work, they have the model ready, and the stakeholders love its performance. But what after that? You have to remember, insurance agents are the end users here, and the model needs to be used by multiple people at the same time, and who may not be data scientists. So therefore, they will not be running a Jupyter or Colab notebook on to run this model. And this is where model deployment comes into action. And this is usually done by machine learning engineers. A machine learning model in itself, it's a file that has been trained to recognize certain types of patterns. And you'll train the model over a period of time, over a set of data, providing it an algorithm that can be used over and over again with those data you have. And in the life cycle, this diagram and deployment, evaluation, monitoring, and management. It goes on and on and on and on. So regulation and calibration of the model will go on frequently to improve the accuracy of the model. And the whole idea is to train, evaluate, test, and predict data sets. Let's move on. Data visualization. This is one of the most interesting and important part in data analytics. Stakeholders, or they may not understand the complex model that we built and the algorithms we have developed. They may not be able to understand that, and even the results may not be in a very understanding manner. And what we require here is to convey our results. We need data visualization, and this is one of the most important parts in data analytics. And it is best to convey your points visually so that you can leverage that information. Visualization is like storytelling. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can directly use Matplotlib or Seaborn and Python, or you can study a tool, Tableau or Power BI. So these tools help you to convert complex results from your project to a format that will be easy to comprehend. So visualization, it's a graphical representation of information, data, with the help of charts, graphs, and maps. Let's move on. The next skill you need is to understand big data. This should have been put right in front of the skill sets, but right in the beginning. But I have put it in the last so that you know the whole concept first, and then you know where are you going to put all these concepts. So big data is that data you need to do your analytics on. A collection of data that is huge in volume, yet it is growing exponentially with time. It's a data with large size and complexity that none of the traditional data management tools can store it or process it efficiently. Big data is also a data, but with huge size. Now we have some examples of how data is growing exponentially. First of all, New York Stock Exchange generates about 1 terabytes of new data per day. Facebook, on the other hand, generates 500 plus terabytes a day. And in 2020, we have created 2.5 quintillion data bytes on a daily basis, and quintillion is 10 raised to 18 zeros. So that's the amount of data that is being generated on a daily basis. So as we see the graph here, 2010 it was 2 zettabytes. That was the data available for analysis, and in 2021 it is around 74 zettabytes, and it is expected to grow to 175 zettabytes in 2025. So that's the amount of data that is being generated. So let's get to the source of the big data. How is it getting generated? First one is social media. Social data comes from likes, tweets, retweets, comments, video uploads, and general media that have been uploaded and shared via world's most favorite social media platforms. Next one is the machine data, which is generated from industrial equipments, sensors that are installed in machinery, and even weblogs which tracks user behavior. These type of data are expected to grow exponentially as Internet of Things grows ever more. It's expanding around the world. Sensors such as medical devices, smart meters, CCTV cameras, satellites, games, and rapidly growing Internet of Things will deliver high velocity and value of data in the near future. The last one is transactional data. These are generated from daily transaction that takes place online and offline. Invoices, payment orders, storage records, delivery receipts, all are transactional data. And types of big data, we have come across this: structured, unstructured, and semi-structured. And the characteristics of big data can be described by 4 V's: volume, variety, velocity, and variability. Volume, as the name big data itself is related to huge size, which is enormous. So the volume defines the enormous size of big data. Variety refers to heterogeneous sources and nature of data. Both structured, unstructured, and semi-structured comes under this. Velocity is referred to the speed of generation of data, how fast the data is generated and processed to meet the demands. And variability, this refers to inconsistency which can be shown by data at times. So that's about the skills which are required to be a data scientist in 2021. So we'll wind up our video here. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for your time.